Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to a best of 5 in the PCFORMAN Super Tournament, an event run by Team GP. This happened, I've been saying this for all of these casts, but this happened about a month ago, and we don't usually cast replays this old. It's just a case of, it's been a cool tournament, and we've cast a lot of it, and I figured we got enough, far enough through it that we kind of wanted to just finish it off. But we've never really had the schedule to just sit down and cast like a whole bunch of it at once. It's always been a little bit here, a little bit there. Today we are going to finish it up by casting the semi-final number 2 and the grand final. So, in the top right-hand side, to kick off our best of 5 TvZ, we will begin with the blue Zerg player from Team NV. This is DRG. Taking on the red Terran player from the Shopify Rebellion to the bottom left corner of the map, it is ByuN, rocking it in the red. So, ByuN DRG semi-final. We didn't see much of ByuN, at least if you watch this on YouTube, which if you're doing so right now, check out the YouTubes. Oh, you're already on the YouTube, I guess, so check out all the YouTube buttons. Yeah, the like button and the subscribe button. And I just gotta say these things, guys. We've gotta start pushing the YouTube a whole bunch more once again, so bear with me as I remind you guys to do that in pretty much all of the videos that will probably be on YouTube for the foreseeable future, because things slowed down. I wonder if it's because I slowed down telling you guys to like and subscribe. So, big test. Hit the buttons and see if it helps the videos do better again. But yeah, we didn't actually put any of the ByuN games on YouTube because the ByuN Cham series was kind of cool because Cham took a map in the round of 16, but it wasn't like amazing. And honestly, the game that he won, ByuN just kind of messed up like one split. And then Cham just got a big Bane connection, just overran him. ByuN missed up one big split when Cham was essentially kind of, all in on no upgrade Ling Bane meter. And then the other two games were very similar, just ByuN defended and he split properly. And he, so it wasn't really one that I thought was worth uploading. And kind of the same on DRG's games. This top side of the bracket in general, we've not seen as much of. I know I've uploaded a bit of the Maru section and some of the Gumiho games on the bottom side. But for these two, it's the first time we're kind of really seeing them and covering them, like I say. So, haven't got much to talk about their runs in the tournament, just that obviously getting this far was good. I think ByuN took down Cham, then Keen. And I want to say that DRG took down maybe like a Zest or somebody. I'm not 100% certain. I don't want to check the bracket to, because obviously that would give me some spoilers. So, that's pretty much all I know. So not much info on how these guys got this far. Obviously, it has been a fun event in general, and like I say, everything that we've cast of it, apart from like one match that we casted that we didn't upload, is on the YouTube channel in the YouTube playlist for the PCFORMAN Super Tournament, so don't be afraid to check that out as we get this one underway. With pretty peaceful opening, hence giving me time to blabber on about this and that. Two Marines are going to make their way forward, and they're going to go after an Overlord who is not moving. Finally decides, hey, high ground might be nice. Oh, no. Oh, you don't get high ground there because of the Hellions and stuff. So that was kind of weird. I mean, do you not get high ground like right here? I feel like we usually have an Overlord there or so, but maybe I'm just a little bit crazy. Maybe I've not been paying attention. That just seemed a little bit weird for DRG to have just left an Overlord somewhere it wasn't protected. I wonder if he made a mistake, like he let it go too far forward initially. Yeah, I wonder if he just let it fly forward a little bit, then he was like, ah, crap, now I can't get it back or something. I don't know. Either way, ByuN is going to be able to rid us of that first Overlord. So not a bad start for our Terran play, as we are going to be seeing a group of Marines making their way up around the top side, and they're going to begin unloading here. So unloading and ready to maybe go for a bit of a stim into the third base. If I say stim, I imagine if we had stim at 4 minutes 13, that would be amazing. Just used to kind of talking about stim when you have a medevac Marine drop, but this obviously is actually much earlier than that, so no, just a few shots, and that's about it. Only one Hellion built and straight into Siege Tank, so ByuN is playing no Hellions, gives up a lot of map control for this, but obviously it's very kind of like anti-Roach, so it really dissuades DRG from doing anything Roach-focused, which ByuN might just say, hey, if I can get into like a Ling Bane kind of game on this map against you, then I'm kind of fine, if I get to play versus Ling Bane, I'm much happier than having to deal with roaches, just because it is a good map for Terran typically. It's a map that if it goes long, we can split to 6 bases each, so you mine out too quickly to really play a super long game. And hence a lot of the time, Zergs do choose to go roaches on this map. So that's why I would imagine that maybe more than anything, ByuN is just setting up for that. Maybe he just knows DRG likes Do Not on this map. In this case, DRG hasn't done it, but it's definitely the right choice when there's not been a single Hellion made. There was multiple tanks out super early in the game. This turned into one big push now from ByuN. This has some kind of necessity to do some kind of damage because obviously you've not got any upgrades on the way or anything. You've only just started Stim. So a lot of what you would usually have by now is missing to have powered up into this attack, as we are going to unload here. The tanks are going to siege up. It's going to be kind of an intriguing little fight that we get going for ourselves. There are a few banelings, but they're slow. Obviously, the Marines don't have Stim to help target them down super quickly, but there are 2 siege tanks that could maybe get the job done as well. No target fire towards the banelings. Just kind of letting the tanks do what they do and leaving them behind as well as he lifted up and evacuated out of there. So ByuN just going to bring these units away. And just going to unload those out down to the low ground now instead, as Baneling speed has just started from DRG. And we're just also waiting to see if he has any other plans from that lair tech. Is he going to go into a Spire? Is he going to invest into a Hydralisk Den? Does he have any choices or options like that? Or is he just going to stick on pure Ling Bane, which has been a somewhat popular option as of late as well? So, a couple of things we could be looking out for right here. Those Lings do go and latch themselves onto a set of rocks off to the side, and a little bit of damage being done by the Marines onto a Queen or two. As we just see, that double evolution chamber has finished up, and melee upgrades have begun, or at least the melee upgrade began. I say upgrades, expecting Carapace to join it, but not just yet, DRG. There we go. Just needed to get the gas, and then remember to actually start it. He does just that, and as soon as he puts down Creep, he loses 2 of the active Creep tumors. ByuN just waiting behind this line of sight blocker to strike, and actually doing pretty well for himself. That's generally a pretty big thing to be able to get rid of some active tumors, especially when you get a Queen on top of it, because that slows down the potential to rebuild that creep as well, as ByuN just playing a very active game. These Marines sticking around on the map, not really getting up to anything too crazy. On this left side, we've got this drop as well, so like I say, very active. A little bit all over the place, as the Widow Lines don't do half bad right there. I do see ByuN, obviously, for the most part, having a back away on the left side, but he is dropping the main on the right, and he's going to get a Spore, he's going to get a Queen, and he's going to be through to get a few drone kills as well, it would seem, as we are going to be seeing him now lifting up once again. And otherwise, ByuN still just holding a few units in the upper left-hand side, as, yeah, like I say, multi-pronged, a bit of back and forth. The creep spread from DRG is horrible, just non-existent, basically, and that just one of the things that really will make life difficult against ByuN as this game goes on. I would love to see ByuN get his armory and make sure he starts 2-2. Okay, he has got an armory and he does start 2-2 now. Just want to make sure you stay ahead on those upgrades, because at this point of the game, you're really looking as though something along the lines of like a big 2-2 attack could more or less wrap this up. And obviously, you know, do what you can, right? You don't want to let this go longer than you need to let it go. In general, that's not something you want to have happen. So, yeah, just, you know, just typically what happens then if you let the game go longer than it needs to. If they can just about get lurkers out, sometimes you can feel yourself a bit stuck on your composition, and then you maybe fall into trouble. Let's see, a bit of a fight. Bane's going to roll forward, but, oh, I was going to say those Marines are well pre-split, but they actually kind of weren't. Like, they were split into 2 groups, but that was about it. We're just going to be seeing a full-on chase away as the Ling Bane continues through. Okay. Back at home, at least there's a group of Marines and Widow Mines that will stop this going any further. But yeah, I felt like ByuN was not really meant to lose as much here. I felt like that was meant to be a safer set of units that were able to stay alive, as that's always cute. I mean, only Queens can really fight against these Marines on this little hill. I mean, like I say, cute but not really devastating. You know, there's only a couple of them there. It's not like Queens will not be able to deal with it at all. At the same time, though, ByuN is once again fighting in the center of the map. And he's just stimming away and picking up whatever he can as he runs. Time to lift out of there. And again, that's the power of playing against no muters and just no anti-air in general. The ability to lift up like that and just escape away is just so potent. And it gives you so much efficiency in these trade outs. And that's where Resources Lost is already at a 2,000 difference, favoring ByuN so far on this map, number 1. He flies headfirst into a Spore Crawler, though. He just about gets back, but then the Queen shoot it down, and he has some troubles. He was so close to the edge, not all of the medevacs begun to unload. And Bioforce is just going to be pushing forward, and a lot of grip spread is going to continue to go down. Ling Bane will continue through. Our Bane's going to continue on forward, and just going to see a Widow Mine or two going off still. These other couple of Banes still looking to connect on in. Just going to be seeing the Ling Bane will get another pushback, get another cleanup. A game that I felt started very much so in ByuN's favor. Feels as though it has slipped a little bit, and it feels as though, yeah, I mentioned the idea of getting to those lurkers and how that can change the momentum for the Zerg. We are almost there. The lurker den has now finished up. 5 is about to be done, so we can go straight into Seismic Spines. Well, and that'll be interesting as we see some of these group teamers being picked away at. Just going to be seeing our Widow Mine lining up. It is going to connect on the Ling Bane. So Ling Bane gets shot down. Just going to be seeing the rest of the Bio continue to pull back a little bit. Widow Mine's actually doing pretty well, getting some significant shots off, but only because I think DRG is somewhat recklessly saying, well, I can just kind of keep on moving in. Lovely Liberator over here is going to push a Mineral Line back. He's going to kill the Lurker Den in the main base, which is huge. Denies that Seismic Spines and just makes those Lurkers a little bit less effective for that little bit longer, which would obviously be brilliant. The longer you can delay the getting to Lurkers, the better this is going to be for you as ByuN, who is looking now to have taken a pretty significant position in this game with a 12-worker lead. Also talking about an army supply lead. As long as ByuN doesn't run into Banelings head first, he might just be... Oh, that was a Widow Mine and a half. He might just be able to keep it going. Now it feels like DRG is being a little bit desperate. He's not respecting the Widow Mines. He's just kind of moving into them, letting his units clump up and just continue to fight them rather than trying to split away. And it's that little bit of kind of letting yourself go, and like, it feels like the small things. It's like, oh, I can just let this one go, right? But no. In ZVT, you've got to fight properly against every single Widow Mine. You know, it's like Banelings, right? You can't just stand and be like, oh, you know what? I won't split from this set of Banelings, because if you don't do that, the Banes are going to kill all your Marines. The same for Widow Mines. You can't just like carelessly say, oh yeah, I'll be fine, unless you're really overwhelming in the game. And obviously, we know that is not happening, as DRG is the one that is struggling behind on supply pretty heavily, for the most part, really. I mean, nothing really positive to say for DRG, really, if I'm trying to be honest. I don't know what I would say that I like about his position right now is just going to be going in with the rest of these units. I mean, I guess the fact that he's got Lurkers is something, but again, they're Lurkers without that upgrade still, as we see a few Lings just coming around, and the Marines just going to lift out of there. Top side, our Bio Army is still moving through, and it's going to start a catch-well. I was going to say those drones, but actually just starts to hit the hatchery instead. So hatchery's going to go down. It just feels like the onslaught of attacks has become too much from DRG, who just traded not quite good enough in the last 2 or 3 minutes especially. And a couple of drops really just pulled him apart and did some worker damage on top of dealing army damage as well. Just going to be seeing our Bioforce unloading behind the mineral line. Lots of drones going down. I'm just going to be seeing everything continuing forward as the lurker falls. Our creep teamers go down. And the Overseers hanging out overhead, and just going to be seeing our adaptive talents from DRG starting up as well, so bringing that up. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is just obviously ByuN kind of doing whatever he wants, even a bit carelessly, and he's probably going to get away with it, quite honestly, because there's not really anything to stop him at this point. I guess the one round of lurkers is truly a little bit scary. You know what I mean? Like, this one set of lurkers you've got to be able to get through at least one time, but that's the only concern for ByuN. Killing this army one time. There's not a lot of rebuild potential from DRG. Let's see if DRG can make something happen with this one final army as he sets up outside of ByuN's base, and ByuN readies himself to greet this army and to figure out how exactly he will fight it. He's only on tanks. He is going to be killing some drones with Widow Mines across the map. So he's mostly on tanks. He's getting some ghosts, and he's also making his way into Liberators. So he's getting a lot of the different tools that make it easier to deal with this kind of stuff, as initial Widow Mines just go off on Overseers. Nothing spectacular. The tanks put in the work, though. The Hydras will do nothing. And once everything else is dead, then you only have those Lurkers, which are obviously going to be just somewhat exposed, and then you can just do kind of a split attack into them, spread out, and just minimize the splash damage and probably overwhelm, because, again, you need a front line to keep those Lurkers alive. And honestly, if nothing else right now, ByuN's already forced DRG to slow down with this attack, which means more time for ghosts, more time for tanks, all of this stuff, which will go a very long way. Just when it comes to the fact that DRG is in a position where he basically has to attack into ByuN. So ByuN just gets more of the better units out, and DRG is just going to type out GG without the larger fight ever happening. simply for the fact that ByuN is dropping. He knows he can't afford to lose another base, and he knows he's kind of missed his only possible timing there. And that is going to be GG, as we are going to be seeing our first game of the series going the way of our Red Terran ByuN in map number 1. Down by 1 in the bottom left-hand corner, but at least now on his own map pick, so a great chance to potentially tie this up. This is going to be DRG. Taking on in the upper right-hand side, the Red Terran player from the Shopify Rebellion, it is ByuN. As mentioned, a pretty fun first game where I thought ByuN was in even a better position than he showed to be initially, and then kind of he got a little bit closer, but he did the right things, and delaying those lurkers was obviously critical because it just gave him so much time where he could continue to be aggressive without worrying about lurker shots. And the difference that makes is truly something. I mean, that really does kind of make the world of difference in those kind of scenarios. See what happens in game number 2 of this series. Is again best of 5, and we do have ourselves the winner of this taking on Maru. We'll be casting that a little bit after as well. Nice to get this tournament wrapped up. The plan is we've actually got a bunch of replays to cast this week that we've been kind of building up over recent times. So we're going to be just doing a bunch of replay casting. Alongside, we've got live content in the WardiTV Summer Championship Europe preliminaries planned. But we're going to be doing a lot of replay casting kind of earlier in the days, just to kind of make it so that we can truly kind of get through some of these replays we've got banked up. I want to try making a bit of a stockpile of YouTube content, just because I'm going to be going away for a week in September for perhaps some Starcraft. Wink, wink. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. So yeah, I just want to kind of, and also just want to do some longer streams, just with the fact that we've obviously been kind of unable to stream properly for 3 weeks due to DreamHack. So just a couple of things. Basically, the TL Too Long Didn't Listen is that you will have a lot of Starcraft content coming up on our channel in the next little while. We're going to be covering a whole bunch of everything we can get our hands on, basically, as well as our own events as well. Should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I really think we should have a good time the next few days, and hopefully you guys will continue to join us if you are watching live on Twitch. Don't feel afraid to hit that follow button. That's always appreciated. Always goes a long way. The pool first from DRG, but ByuN didn't leave an opening for DRG to really do much with the links, so Reaper stayed at home. He deals with this well. I mean, that's what happens when you SCV scout and you see that it's a pool first, not a hatch first. I do like the pool first, just in case ByuN proxy racks is here, or even does something crazy like, you know, triple racks Reaper. That's something he has done, even somewhat recently on this map, so I don't mind going pool first for that regard. But obviously in this case, ByuN's playing pretty normal, so doesn't really get too much done at the end of the day. We're going to chase down some Zerglings, and a Hellion coming across as well, so moving around and obviously looking to see if they can maybe get some work done. Of Hellions on the way out right now. I'm just going to be seeing our Marauder building, so ByuN going to drop down an armory and go for like a Hellbat Marauder attack, I'd imagine. That's 9 times out of 10 what this turns out to be when Marauders get involved. Obviously, why not just add on the armory and, you know, get that up and running. There's our Baneling Nest from DRG, the few Lings and a couple of Queens at the front set up already. There's our Concussive Shells, and there's our armory. So yes, quite a committed Hellbat attack as well, because you're investing into a lot of upgrades to try and power this up. That's where we are currently headed here in this game. Couple drones on the way out. DRG at least went Baneling Nest before Lair, so that's a much safer way of playing. By going Baneling Nest before Lair, you really do set yourself up for a lot of potential success, I would say. It just means that you're going to have access to units which can really defend against this nice and quickly. Liberator on the way out as well, though, and that's going to be some of the follow-up aggression that we'll end up seeing here as we wait for one final Marauder. And ByuN is going to make this strike happen across the map pretty freaking soon. He's even going to take the 2 Marines, so that's actually really going to be everything. I suppose he will be fully walled off in a moment, and that should make him safe enough to commit to doing this without too many issues. There you go, and Medevac going to start boosting over, and those Hellions are running through on the ground. So the attack will begin. I was going to be seeing our Hellions morphing into Hellbats here, and here we go. As we do start marching into this expansion. So in we go, and just going to be seeing Queens obviously have to go running. 8 Banelings are morphing, and they really are going to be the answer in just the next few moments as they finish up. Now, how well will they connect? The Hellbats are pretty well split. They get some okay shots toward the end. And the Lings are streaming through, and those Marauders are going down, and that is going to be a defense out of DRG, but it cost him 12 drones, and now the Liberator shows up. This Liberator had 8 of these kills, so it was the Liberator that did more damage than anything else. So it was a successful defense on the natural for the most part. It was this third base Liberator harassment that was actually really doing the damage during all of this. And we are going to be seeing the Liberator just going to relocate slightly and just going to siege up once again. But this time it will be shot down by a couple of Queens. No problem at all. Well, we did decent enough damage, I would say, as we do finally see this final unit getting picked off. I think we did decent enough damage for ByuN to be happy and to be able to transition away. But it's still that, you know, complication of, hey, you did a Hellbat push, so everything else is slowed down for you. Your third wasn't very quick here. Your additional barracks are only just coming online. You know, you don't have a, reactor on the starport yet, so he has built more Hellions. It's actually really nice for chasing those Lings down. That will keep you a little bit safer. I would say we go into mid-game with DRG in a little bit of a lead, just because of, well, the Hellbat push did enough to keep ByuN alive, as that's obviously massive as well, clearing out these Hellions, and now I actually really like it for DRG, because ByuN has no map control. Now, that's actually, so this went from being, in my eyes, like maybe 60-40 DRG, because he was obviously, like I say, just that far ahead on drones, and maybe ByuN slowed down a little bit, but wasn't completely out of it. Losing the Hellions really swings things more in DRG's favor, because now the creep spread can go everywhere. And there's just going to be no stopping that. There's no concerns from DRG either. He knows there's nothing on the map right now. He knows where a lot of the minerals of ByuN went. And that is just going to give him freedom for a couple of minutes. And then when this first attack starts coming, he's already going to have all of the creep spread. He's going to have a good army. And I do believe that's where we are going to be having ourselves a bit of a problematic experience for ByuN, as DRG is even trying to get aggressive right now. The Widowmine lines up to be amazing and hits so many Banelings. And if there's been one thing that's not been great for DRG all series long, it's been his responses to Widowmines. He's kind of just ran into them head first, just expecting it to all be okay. And spoilers, it has not all been okay. Not in the slightest, in fact. So yeah, that part of it's pretty brutal, as we are going to take this medevac across the map. Just going to bring that across and see what it can get up to. Meanwhile, a few units still sat back at home. I'm just going to be having our group of Marines, and this medevac gun will go out as well. So, wouldn't mind drop here, but that's a base that's not currently online. So, going to have to find one with some actual drones mining if we want this wouldn't mind drop to be successful. Going to get into the back of the natural. DRG is already chasing it, so should be no reason to, take damage from this, right? If you know that it's coming, you just split away, and that's exactly what he's been doing. So, pretty well handled there, honestly. ByuN turns this one medevac back around for a moment. Thought about it, but ends up not finding too much. Now he comes back toward the third base. If nothing else, he is forcing a lot of relocation, right? Manning time lost just from units having to run around and move around a little bit. Now we've got a little bit of a Marine squad looking to get cancelled on this 5th hatchery, but that's the problem. This is a 5th hatchery, not a 4th hatchery. The 4th hatchery in the bottom right-hand corner. So while it's nice to get rid of a 5th base, you haven't exactly started thinking about your own fourth base as a Terran player. It's not like you're keeping the base count even. You're just stopping DRG from running even further ahead. Massive Link counterattack going to start doing some damage as ByuN's attack gets shut down by Banelings. Well, neither player actually took serious worker damage there. Both players probably felt as though they're probably going to take some more. But it actually just equals out at 3 workers dead on either side. ByuN is on something of a timer in my eyes, as I believe we just had this. We don't mind getting 3 more drones just to keep that worker kill count back up on the screen. Yeah, I think ByuN's on a bit of a timer. There's no 4th base coming down. He's on his way to Adrenaline Claws in 2-2. But it does, I mean, okay, I guess DRG doesn't have the 5th hatch train. Without the 5th hatch, then maybe it ain't so bad. I just got an awful feeling that if ByuN doesn't do something soon, the creep spread might start getting forward again. And like I say, while there's no 5th hatch, that's great, but it's not like ByuN has amazing economy himself with 68 workers on 4 bases, on 3 bases, sorry. And he is working on that, sure, but just not 100% certain if we're there yet. Drop into the main base, and that's the kind of thing that ByuN needs. Some distractions, some harassment that can add up and really make some, really kind of distract DRG, keep on doing damage, open up windows to keep on denying the creep spread. If there's one thing I'm impressed about, is that ByuN hasn't been overwhelmed by creep. It really felt like he was going to be overwhelmed by creep at some point in this game with how it's all started, but that's not really been the case at all. He's been able to keep fairly on top of it. I wouldn't mind there. Actually clipped some Banelings, as initially it was aiming at Hydralisks. And ByuN is going to be forced to lift up and back away. He's going to have to get full on defensive right now. He's been building Widow Mines still. No tanks to help with this Hydra force. So it's just going to be Widow Mines, and even them are in kind of very low numbers here. He actually dropped his reinforcements back out to the right-hand side. So as he turns around with SCVs to try and fight, ByuN is going to take heavy losses. And I'm not sure it's going to be enough for him to really offset the army disadvantage he's taken. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be DRG able to turn around and just keep on fighting. While ByuN obviously gave up SCVs to keep his army alive initially, he just wasn't able to then get through the army of his opponent anyway, in which case, that's obviously not very good. That leaves you in a bit of a weird position. With 26 workers dead, ByuN's response is a drop bottom right. Medevac's gone though, if there ever was a medevac, I imagine so. 5 drones killed, but nothing in comparison to the damage that ByuN is taking. ByuN up 20 army supply, so if there's a time to go, it would be as soon as possible. Take advantage of the army supply lead while you can. I know you probably means in fighting onto creep spread and fighting into positions you don't really want to fight, but at the end of the day right now, you don't really have much of a choice, right? You are not in a position to be picking and choosing your fights. You're in a position where you just gotta take what you can. You basically just gotta pull everything and go for it and just kind of hope and pray a little bit. That's all going to be alright in the end as that bio army comes through, picking off a whole bunch of creep to begin with. Pushing towards this bottom right-hand corner. Here come a few Banelings moving through. Widow Mine shot goes off. Army is going to load back up into these medevacs. And he's going to unload once again, as you do see some of those Hydras taking that little bit of damage. So doing alright, still here, ByuN, still using that army supply lead to try and push his way further forward, to try and make this work out. The Banelings do not really connect, but the Lurkers are going to start really making a difference, and there's a whole bunch more of them, and that's really, once again, going to be the game changer. Not that, again, like I say, it was kind of a situation where you had to win this game as ByuN with this army, and obviously the Lurkers coming out, basically, that's what DRG was buying time for. He gets there, and the Lurkers especially are not something you've got an army supply to deal with as ByuN. It's kind of funny because this game was kind of the opposite of Game 1, in the sense that the armies we ended up on, both players in Game 1 and Game 2, first DRG and then ByuN, were on an army that just had to end the game or die trying, and obviously just were not able to make it happen in the end. So, GG's, fun game so far in this best of 5. Crank out some Starcraft today, as in the top left corner of the map from Team NV, this is DRG. Signing up on his map pick, we now have Lightshade as map 3. Intrigued what the full map order would be. I imagine if Jack and Natha wasn't vetoed, what do you veto as ByuN? Maybe 2,000 atmospheres? Maybe 2,000 atmospheres. And that's what I would imagine the veto was, as ByuN is in the bottom right-hand corner. So then you have, like, maybe after this Blackburn, and then maybe Romanticide for game 5 or something, I would say is a fairly reasonable guess at what we might be seeing here. Just gonna see our spawning pool coming through and our hatchery setting up on that natural expansion. Just gonna be having obviously hatchery first this time, but there's one drone really making sure he's not gonna get all in. The ByuN does love to go for like this triple racks like along here and wall off this area with it and stuff, so that's exactly where DRG has been scouting. He does not want ByuN to pick up a cheeky win or anything. Does not want to die to the proxy racks, not on Lightshade at least. Not on Lightshade. Right, well, fairly peaceful opener, really. As we got ourselves up and running. Factory will build in the main base. Just getting that started up already. And that command center on the natural, just kind of ticking along. There's going to be marine-focused opener here. Straight a reactor. There was no Reaper involved right away, so it's always kind of interesting to point that out, but I think for the most part it's never really something which is too crazy or too wild. Yokohama Blues in the chat. Thanks for the great casting of Europe DreamHack. Glad you enjoyed. It's always fun to be part of DreamHack, of course, and to do the shows. The last day I did casting with Roddy, though, my brain was really just melted. I just could not, for the life of me, but like 2 sentences in a row straight, so it was a bit of a weird day, but I'm glad you guys liked it. Thank you so much. As those Marines are going to snap that overlord out the sky, and that's going to just be gone. And DRG will end up supply blocked off of that. So, kind of a big kill, actually, being able to pick that overlord up. That really does put you in a bit of a weird spot, as DRG just slowed down a little bit on your build. Some Marines are kind of running towards you. There's now Hellions coming your way. I wonder if this combination can cause some trouble. I suppose Queen should just defend this, but I was wondering if, like, Queen's being pulled. I mean, you're going to miss an inject here, for example, right? So you're going to force a spine, so you've genuinely got your opponent worried, and he's missing macro mechanics. I would say this is already doing pretty well for ByuN as he gets an active creep tumor on the left-hand side. And he's just going to back it up. He was never intending to commit at all. Now the Italians will look for opportunities and active creep tumors. That's exactly what they'll find right away. One active creep tumor again just killed off, and denying that creep spread helps massively as this game goes on. As the Hellions pull back through into the center, a couple Queens still on the way out. And we wait for our next move, as these feelings at least do catch some of the Marines, so punishing ByuN for having been on the map initially at least. That is something we can be fairly happy about, I think. Single Ling at the front gets Hellioned down. So that will fall, and now just going to be seeing that lair on the way up. Those drones and that Baneling nest all coming through. Single Ling still on a bit of a journey around. Hellion's moving up to the top. There's drones going down. The Plug Banshee showing up. Oh, he's just going to get 6 kills right away. This Banshee just finds an well, just no Spore Roll on the natural mineral line, and that's just obviously very painful. He's going to get 10 workers here, make it 11 as this one goes down, 12 as another transfers. I mean, that's disastrous amounts of damage that DRG is taking. That's just going to offset him into a terrible spot for the remainder of the game. Because both these Banshees are still alive too, right? So they both still have potential to get more done. The Hellions are now going to try and use an opening to actually get in here and fight. As this Banshee tries to do something, there's not a single queen that's going to go chase this Banshee that's just sat in the dead airspace there. There is done, and this Banshee got a bit too greedy. As I believe that's one final drone kill from this Banshee, which escapes with 13 kills on the board. And that is going to be the top fragger for the moment, because nothing's going to come close to that amount of damage. ByuN, the Cloak Banshee, is really catching DRG off, and I wonder if it's just all the little things that happened before now that just threw DRG a little bit. Wasn't quite ready for the Cloak Banshees after, because he's been busy chasing down Marines on the map and all that kind of stuff. Wonder if that has something to do with it, and, you know, investing into a spine initially, canceling that, you know what I mean? Like, all of that is just, like, making it kind of like a mentally uncomfortable game for DRG is pretty, you know, it's a pretty, it's something you gotta respect, right? It's something you've got to think about. There's a real possibility here. And yeah, I think it's obviously definitely doesn't help DRG for sure. There's going to be another dead queen, though. And that's actually really nice. So these Banshees are just really getting too much done. I know he's killed one of them, but even an additional queen on top of everything else they've done sets up for cancel on the 4th base. Banshees have provided ByuN way too much damage. DRG is going to be in trouble, and the counterattack will run straight into Marines with medevac support. And even without the upgrades, those Marines are going to be scary enough to just scare those Lings away. And those Lings do have to take a turn away, backing out over to that left-hand side. The Hellions are still just joined up. Rally upgrades still coming in. Missile turrets still coming down. Group spread continuing to push on forward through the center of the map. We're going to have a group of Marines and Widowmines and Medevacs all continuing around the left-hand side as well. It's just going to be moving out around the left, as we do have the Ling Bane army all setting up between the 3rd and the 4th base. In we go, as we're going to be seeing these Marines picking off a couple of creep tumors already. Zergling's taking some damage. Oh, I was going to say that first Widowmine just went off on a Overlord, but then the second one hits dead center on the Banelings. Oh, then ByuN had some really good target fire, and then he scared me a little bit here, but he still does okay, but he loses 10 SCVs because he's putting so much attention into that drop. So the run-by is a success story. The Banshee is on the 4th base again. Should be healthy enough that it doesn't need to be cancelled this time around. At least more SCVs going down, just a Ling or two into the mineral line to keep the damage rolling. As now ByuN evacuates the center. This Banshee is doing crazy damage. That's a half hit point hatchery. So it's half HP from where it once was. And we are just going to be seeing our units regathering once again. On the upper side, Medevac is going to heal up these Marines. All of those Lings going to hang out on the right, going to morph in some Banes. One of the better things, obviously, from DRG absolutely has been the counterattack so far. That's something which we've definitely been seeing be pretty substantial, I would say, and has had a pretty big effect in some of the, while ByuN's been focusing elsewhere, the counterattacks have done decently. So yeah, nice to see him keeping those up. This time, plenty of units at home. Unfortunately, it just won't really quite hit the way it's meant to. Lifts up against these Banelings and could just drop on top one by one, which is always a good trade. And that's kind of what we see happening there as well. So as Widowmines get into the mineral lines too, it just feels like all of the focus has been on ByuN this and ByuN that for the most part. I mean, ever since those Banshees were able to get so much done initially, feels like it's just been a pretty consistently good time for ByuN. But I mean, I guess that's natural, and DRG has had some better moments for himself. It's just, like I say, a lot of that's been the attempt to claw back rather than really taking a lead or so. As 2-2s are going to be finishing in a moment here, and ByuN is going to at least try to pressure with the 2-2. But Widowmines don't get burrowed here. All of them going down before a single shot is fired, so splash damage denied before it's able to take effect. That's obviously pretty substantial, of course. That's a pretty big deal, as you're going to be seeing the rest of these medevacs lifting up around the center. They'll start making their way around the left-hand side. We get an Overlord on the right, and that's suddenly a supply block DRG, though. Well, as ByuN comes around the left-hand side, he's going to get a few of these Zerglings again with the cancelled hatchery. He's just split pushing, and this is something that we saw him win with essentially on Oxide as well. Was very good, just splitting up, being kind of aggressive everywhere. Had a lot of success with it on Oxide and led him to a victory as his opponent approached the Lurkers. Basically, the Lurkers were coming up, and he was able to just get enough done before Lurkers got out to make a substantial difference. There's a couple Widow Mines going down. Again, the Widow Mines being cleared out a few times will remove the splash damage, will maybe give DRG an opportunity where he can just get to an overwhelming force. It feels like one of the bigger possibilities right now is that Marines unloading. Ling Bane's still trying to roll through on top of this. On the left side, ByuN looking to make a play as well, but not really finding anything just yet. Now he's going to start making his move. There's a few Lings and Banes here, and it's enough at least for ByuN to say, I don't have the attention to just kite and deal with that. I need a macro, I need to move up the right side. He's going to look elsewhere. So for the moment, at least the left side pressure is alleviated. However, he's going to be pressed hard on the right, as now ByuN is going to move through. Widow Mine's going to get to go off this time around. There wasn't very many Banelings ready. In fact, only the one, right? And now these Banes are still morphing. And that's the sweet spot for ByuN. If he can take fights while Banelings are not ready, these are just not going to be good trades for the Zerg player. Now there's a lot of Banelings ready at least, so it will give a bit of breathing room to DRG, who gets overrun on the left-hand side. So breathing on one side, and then on the other side just suffocating, as ByuN's pressure on either side is just so difficult to keep up with. This consistent back and forth is obviously just, I mean, when you're behind, it's just hard to get a proper army split to deal with this. Especially when you're kind of just playing kind of Ling Bane Hydras, and Hydras that you really just want kind of Lurkers with as well. It's a really tough situation that you're playing through at the moment. As you're going to see, this Bioforce is going to split up a bit. Here come our Banes rolling through. That Bio Army continues to just keep on pressing in. I mean, here the Lurkers, can they make enough of a difference? Tank gets abducted in as well. A little bit of energy still remaining on the Vipers beyond that as also, but just too much Terran. I mean, DRG wasn't really meant to hold from that kind of a position. We were just hoping he might have something left in the bag to make it special. He did not, and that is in the bottom right-hand corner of Ramanda's side for Game 4. I have no idea what ByuN's picks were or vetoes were or anything at this point. It's just a little bit crazy in here. It is going to be our blue Zerg play in the bottom right from Team NV. DRG needs a win to stay alive in this series and in this tournament. Obviously, semi-finals, best of 5, losers out. Winner goes to that grand final, as ByuN has been taking some steps there in the last few moments, taking that 2-1 lead. Convincing games in the games that he won, but kind of getting rolled a little bit on that Gigantha game. Just a game where it was DRG that really seemed to just have the better setup, the better, preparations. It was just well set to take that one down. And Proxy racks it up for this game then. Funny because obviously DRG drone scouted on Lightshade for this. And now ByuN's going to do it on Ramanda's side. To the other right side, I mean, proxies have obviously always been evolving builds, and positioning of proxies has always been an interesting point of discussion. And this is obviously a proxy which is right up there, in the upper right-hand corner. It's not really nearby. It's quite a reinforcement distance to go from this upper right side location down to the bottom right towards the Zerg base. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's not the shortest you've seen either. So, yeah, it's definitely something to think about. The reinforcements will take a while to get here. It is just going to be the 2 racks out of ByuN, so nothing too wild in that regard. As you get the 2 barracks up and rolling. SCV will take a scout forward, and we'll see a few Lings out, though. Let's see, this is where ByuN finds out the bad news, that it's a pool first, and that the build order of DRG is quite simply a rather good counter to everything that he has been doing. So ByuN will face a little bit of adversity in the start of this game. We'll see what he can do from this. He actually went 2 Marines and 2 Reapers. I actually kind of like that, but against pool first, you're still going to have to deal with units from so early on. Not sure it necessarily makes a difference, and even Ling speed is coming up very quickly here, so with that Ling speed already coming through, you kind of got to imagine that that's going to be a kind of a big deal. It's going to be a rather big deal, in fact. Yeah, that's going to be rough. I mean, as long speed finishes, there's going to be 2 more Reapers popping out. But back at home, because you're building Reapers, the factory obviously is just non-existent. So you don't have a factory, which you would usually have on the back of a 2-Rax. And that just takes away some of your follow-up options and even some of your defensive options as well. It just really puts you into a very weird position as our Reapers. Put some grenades down, pushing those Zerglings back. And there's that link speed kicking in. More Reapers going down as well. And is it fair to say that this is just disaster town for ByuN? He's going to lose all of his Reapers. He's got no units at home. He's got no barracks at home. He actually just has no army supply on the map, which means the Lings have free reign to go across and to nibble at the very least. I mean, does he have enough time to realize this, build a Baneling nest, and buzz? Honestly, he might. ByuN's just going to type GG. He honestly might have had, right? He sees like there's absolutely nothing there. He's like, oh. You know, I wonder if you could have actually just made that call anyway, because you know it was 2 racks into 2 Reapers, so you should, or into Reaper production. So I wonder if you can just tell that the factory should be very late, so you could preemptively build a Bane nest and just Bane buzz once you've killed the Reapers. I don't know if that's a super crazy possibility. I actually think that wouldn't be too wild, you know. All right, well, GG's, and all of a sudden we are all tied up as the failed proxy racks. Number 5, the deciding map will be 2,000 atmospheres. So ByuN vetoed Blackburn or Beckett. I mean, either way, I mean, maybe my best logical guess is DRG vetoes Beckett, and then ByuN vetoes Blackburn. The logic there would be that by vetoing Blackburn, you take away some of those very Roach-centric plays that we've seen Zergs actually have an okay time with on that map. So maybe that's a part of it. Maybe that's where the logic lies, because otherwise I'm a little bit blind as to what the as to what exactly you're trying to achieve in that regard. So that will be my best guess. Like I said, I don't think that's actually all too crazy. I think that's actually not bad logic. Just I feel like usually there's better things to veto, like Jagannatha map, which is typically just bad for Terran. But then again, ByuN has always done this. He's always kind of let people kind of play Jagannatha, and he's not vetoed it as much as he usually should, or as a lot of the other people do. I was going to get a hatch gas set and pool setting up. Then there's a couple of drones come on out. They're going to be rallying down to that low ground. There's that command center of ByuN setting up over on the natural expansion. You have a couple of overlords moving around. A queen now building up on this natural as well. You got that going. Who's playing the EU qualifier? If you type !B, you can click on the bracket link and you can see the current signups. Obviously, it's open signup, so people are allowed to sign up all the way until it starts. So it's not exactly a definitive list or anything. A 3 racks from ByuN. So reactor first, 3 racks follow up. I kind of like it. This is a build that ByuN especially has been fond of in this matchup. A little bit of TvZ, 3 racks, and it's not a super common way to play. It's funny because I think initially at first this kind of really seemed like a way to you kind of faked the idea of going 2-on-1, because it's like, oh, you see a lot of Marines, and most of the time a lot of Marines means 2-on-1, right? So you kind of play around the idea of, hey, I'm gonna 2-on-1. And the reality of the situation is you're not going to 2-on-1, you're going to 3 racks, and it just requires a different response, because you usually try and hold the first wave of a 2-on-1 with Link Queen, and with a 3 racks you just have those extra Marines that you're just that little bit more overwhelming against Link Queen, And that can really kind of set your opponent off onto the trail of like, uh-oh, what the hell's going on? Try and respond, try and make it work. And just put things into a very weird situation in general. So, yeah, I would imagine that, that's definitely had something to do with it. That was what I talked about a lot when this build was first being done by ByuN. Nowadays that people know that this is something that ByuN can do, it's obviously not as noticeable, that sort of thing. There's DRG just sitting out the front, and of course a lot of this is what you can figure out as well. He'll see a few Marines, but ByuN's obviously going to make sure to try and keep everything else somewhat hidden for the most part, as Overlord's not making a move either. And again, just wait on stim, combat, and +1 to get that little bit closer. Bane Nest comes down from DRG. I think that's the right idea. Just nowadays, you can't really take the risk of not dropping that Baneling Nest based on what I've just been saying. I think that's just good scouting from DRG. Good figuring out of what the situation is and how it's going to play out here in the next little while, and what he's going to need to make sure that he's safe in this game number 5. The Baneling Nest will finish in against Impact, Combat Shield, and +1, all continuing through. Those upgrades will just rally in as plenty of Marines make their way out down to the south side of the map. So away they go. "24 more Zerglings on the way up, and 5 Banelings along with them, as that lair will be continuing through. A couple of Extractors coming out, the creep spread still coming through. And Marines showing up to get rid of a couple creep tumors already, so a bit of creep already being denied right off the bat. That lair's about halfway done as well, so that's still trickling along, as we see plenty of drones being brought into play. +1 army going up behind that Bane base on the engineering bay, and all of our Marines going to start moving out into the center of the map, aiming towards this set of rocks. It's going to line up for that and get ourselves ready for an attack into this third base already. And Marines come through, they get a queen, a couple of creep teamers continuing to go down. A lot of creep teamers going down. It's just going to be seeing the Marines. Kind of wanted to chase the Banelings. The only thing with this is you don't have medevacs right away. You don't have a get out of jail free card and just being able to pick up and boost away. So you've got to be cautious with how far the Marines commit, because if the Marines get overly committed, that's immediately a situation where you are losing out in. So you need to make sure those Marines do not get out of hand. They are going to stay safe. And in this case, he did exactly that, pulling them back and keeping them out of range. Especially as his stim was about to fade away, he didn't give DRG a chance to jump on this army and to trade well, because even better is still having this army alive when the reinforcements come in, because that makes this next stage of the push even scarier. As +1 already done, we're about to be on +1 armor even for ByuN. So his upgrades are actually outstanding so far. DRG has an option when it comes to this attack. He can either counter Baneling Bust, or you can obviously just kind of use this as a flank in on this army. A lot of the time, I think players prefer to kind of get rid of this army, especially when this is a very committed attack as well. Baneling Bust in would hit the natch. You got to go through that wall. You know, reinforcements are very likely to be there or nearby, so it makes a lot more sense usually in these scenarios to actually just straight up go for the surround to try and fight it. As we are going to lift up for the moment and pull back. Obviously, the big thing here is that DRG's reinforcements are streaming into this fight all the time, whereas ByuN's reinforcements aren't able to quite make the trip across the map as easily. And that's what we're seeing a little bit of right now, as you see just 2 drops going to be the reinforcements of ByuN. And that's probably the best way you can get to move here, is obviously just moving via the ground. Is well spotted out from DRG. He does make his move, but ByuN evacuates everything in good time to honestly just keep a lot of it alive. And he's going to be dropping here. He'll be dropping on that bottom side 4th base as well. That might just die because DRG sent everything to the main base. With everything in the main base, the 4th is just a complete goner. Absolutely nothing to defend it. A single building Zergling duo on that basis. Oh, you do lose the full medevac here on the top side. So that hurts a little bit, but this drop continuing as well. And I mean, right now, it's going to sit in the gap, throw it out, lift up, get out. ByuN Denying the fourth puts him in a much better spot. Now, that said, he obviously has a very late third base given the build order, so very late third means he kind of needed to do some damage, and denying the fourth, at the very least, is a good step in the right direction for that. So, taking some steps in the right directions, at least. Let's see how drops. Setting up elsewhere at the same time. Still keeping those units active and out on the map. Big push along to the left is going to be the next step of this then. I mean, Armory's on the way. It's a little bit late. We had such a 1-1 lead for ByuN. He obviously is missing the opportunity to obviously keep that upgrade lead going for 2-2. Big flag, and that should be a cleanup. The question always will be just how much does it cost to clean this up as that tank in the line of sight block again. Some extra shots off. Not even talking down a Baneling or so. Yeah, kind of interesting fights. You can see DRG lost a lot, to be fair. And in resources lost, he is absolutely trailing massively. 4,000 resources lost down. ByuN's efficiency throughout this series has been absolutely on point. There's not even been a moment in these games where, you know, where I've thought, oh yeah, DRG might have an eco lead. There really hasn't been, apart from that game on Jag and Nather after that Hellbat attack. Obviously, that was not one he won. That was not one that ByuN won. It has been in the ByuN winning games. He's just been super convincing on the economy, not giving anyone a chance to doubt. Surprised you see jumping these Marines take a step forward once again. A couple of Banelings being picked away at. The Marine army wants to make itself known once more, still sitting on this left-hand side. There's obviously this is the fourth base now of DRG. If you lose this, you've had your fourth base cancelled yet again, and that really would be disastrous. As our Banes and our Hydras and our Zerglings come rolling on through. These Liberators, though, are going to get shot down. It is going to be DRG clearing ByuN out with everything on the line in this final game. These two are throwing kind of everything they've got at it. ByuN is throwing attack after attack. DRG is swatting them away, trying to hold on, trying to cling on to a defense and maintain a supply lead, which so far he's been able to do, and generally that's a good sign for Zerg. Staying alive in the game at least. The big issue for DRG has got to be the drone count. Only 65 workers is the kind of thing that over time, I think, as Banelings rolled into that siege tank, and I don't think that helped you at all. That was not a good fight at all for DRG. And like I was just saying, on only 65 workers, you don't have a ton of rebuild potential. The rebuild potential is very much so thwarted compared to usual, and not having that 80+ drone economy. So rolling Banes into tanks is the sort of thing that's just a little bit more expensive to, it's just a little bit more expensive to get through. Looks as though, I mean, we're going to see 2-2 on the way from ByuN. At least that's finally finishing. Some of these fights have been in favor of DRG on the upgrades, as Marines here kind of reveal themselves before they actually, they could have stimmed and probably got the cancel, but he wasn't paying attention, and one Marine just started fighting on its own. He took matters into his own hands and ruined it for everybody else. Clearing out a Marine, we still have medevacs going through the bottom side, and they're actually going to stop short of the natural and drop into the third base location instead. The double Liberator here sieged up. It's going to stop everything else from getting too much done as our Marines and medevacs line up, and here we go. Going to start pulling back a bit. Couple Banes wanted to get through there. We actually see a medevac getting shot down. Couple of tanks killed off as well. This army of DRG will go running across as we have Marines setting up just behind the command center. Other Marines are going to begin to unload once more. Hydra's already picking away at that command center. Command center taking quite a few shots. I mean, it looks as though ByuN is going to be able to fight through and get his fourth base down in position. DRG not going to be able to deny that one at least. Well, there's a hive on the way up, so I guess once more we're probably thinking of Lurkers. It's been kind of the go-to all series long for DRG. He's been very, very consistent, if nothing else, with the tech choices that he's been making. DRG army goes back up the left, and it's quite a lot of Terran ready to fight. Again, we've got a WardiTV to the lurker dens ready. He got the hive without the lurker den. I feel like that was a mistake. Maybe distracted, maybe not quite realizing, because obviously without the lurker den, the hive, I mean, it gets you Vipers, sure, but it feels like there's no reason to not get the lurker den while the hive is on the way up. Apart from, I guess, maybe just lack of money. And to be fair, like we've been saying, this has not been a good eco position for DRG. So that may very well be the reasoning behind that, in fact. And I guess that kind of just is the economy, which really, to be fair, is just super far ahead for ByuN. I mean, it's only, he's down 6 workers, but that actually, like I say, really is for a Terran player a good advantage, because you've obviously got the mules on your side, and you're trading more efficiently typically in this matchup anyway. Resources lost is a 5,000 difference, so ByuN is just trading much better, and that's why DRG should have the 15-20 worker lead. That's why this is just not really gonna go DRG's way given time, even. All these tanks getting sieged, the Marines sitting behind, and we are going to take some steps forward. Ling Bane Hydra think about making some moves. Here we go, going to start running forward here. A few Banes trying to crash in, a couple of tanks get hit in a blinding cloud. And the Marine Force has to keep on kiting back as Ling Bane again continue to get cleared out. But there's so many Marines. As long as those few Banes don't hit in the last few, this should be okay. We are just going to be jumping in to this base. I mean, at the same time, there's that push on the bottom as well. We have seen throughout the series, ByuN's split pushing has been very, very powerful. And he's been very good at it, as now with an upgrade lead, he attacks in. And I think the moral of this story is that DRG just did not have the income all game long to really deal with this. He started this like 7 minutes ago, he had a good economy, and then it just never really got back consistently to that stage. And you just can't trade in the way that he's been trading with less economy. It just doesn't make sense. It's not actually possible. The mathematics will not allow it. So, yeah, unfortunately, it feels like this was kind of a slow loss for DRG, because he's just been kind of dying a slow death over the last little while, because ByuN has traded so well, and he's denied the economy of DRG so well also. The combination goes such a long way as our Marines and our medevacs and our siege tank move on over to the right-hand side. A couple of libs moving through too. Now Ling's running across the map trying to counterattack, but at the same time we're going to move on through down here. Because Lib's already sieging. I mean, abduct, and we do get rid of the Libs right away, but the full energy Viper goes down. It's basically these lurkers to try and save the day. Can they do enough? DRG doesn't think so. He types out GG as he's losing a lot of workers. And that is going to be our boy ByuN taking the 3-2. And he will advance through to the grand finals to play against Maru. So that will be coming up shortly as our finals of this PCFORMAN Super Tournament by Team GP. ByuN 3, DRG 2.